Normally when I make these videos, I'm trying to offer advice or experiences that I've had with the Omnipod 5 that I think could be helpful. This one was actually a little different. So let me explain. So I was working with a friend who was considering using a pump. My friend has low vision, so meaning she can't really see that well. It's one of the very common complications of diabetes, unfortunately, especially as you get older. If you had some poorly managed blood sugars for years and years, a lot of times you might get issues with it's called diabetic retinopathy. It's just one of the many sort of like peripheral nerve issues that you can have. So unfortunately, she really has quite a few vision issues. And we were talking about like the Omnipod 5, and I was saying, I really like it and I think it's pretty easy to use. But then I actually showed her, how I do it. And she asked me a question that I was kind of ashamed that I hadn't thought of already. And her question was, how would I use this if I can't see anything? Right now, she's really not using any technology other than pens, and she does use Dexcom, but she has an iPhone and she has the Dexcom narrate or read her blood sugar and the arrow. So what I was surprised to realize was that with the Omnipod 5 PDM, there is no way to have it narrate for you or to speak for you, or really no accessibility options at all besides what's right out of the box. No, I don't know if that's the case. I'm assuming if you use an actual Android device that you could utilize some of the accessibility features that I would think they would have on there. And I'm curious to hear if that's true and how that experience is. So for example, if you do have an Android device, can you have it read you like your bolus amount, for example? And can you bolus through verbalization rather than actually clicking on the app, or do you still have to click on the app just regularly? It was interesting. I actually called Omnipod support just earlier this morning to ask them about PDM and accessibilities. And the rep on the phone was actually really, really open and honest, which I appreciated. And he basically said, this right now, at least with the PDM, is a big gap for us. It's something that we are working on or considering in terms of brainstorming how we can do this, whether it be like a haptic, something that you can feel on the phone when you press a certain area of it, or you make a certain settings selection. He also acknowledged the need for verbalization, but he didn't have any plans in terms of how that could come up. So essentially, they basically just said, yeah, it's an issue. It's a known issue. Problem is, a ton of people with diabetes have complications like this. And so I was kind of surprised as I started to think about this, and bummed, honestly, because a lot of people that would benefit from these sort of devices are going to have an issue using them if they can't actually see or interact with the settings appropriately. So I guess in this case, the easy answer is to have somebody help you. But what if you don't have somebody to help you? What do you do? So it's a frustrating gap in service that maybe is not obvious right away, but when you do come across people that have these accessibility issues, it's kind of a deal breaker. So I'm very curious to hear if anybody has any advice on this, or how you think we could maybe push some of these companies to do some of these things, because it is very important. Again, with the PDM, I don't understand why they couldn't have just allowed you to have access to the native phone's accessibility settings. Maybe that would have allowed you to then verbalize or use touch in different ways to actually bolus or check your values or your readings. But it does seem like a gap, especially in a community of people that are much more likely than people that don't have diabetes to have these sort of peripheral nerve and vision issues. So anyway, I was just curious about that. And if anybody has any ideas, I would love to hear them. Thanks.